Hi guys, I'm back again to do another quick video. This time I'll be talking about different perspectives on the media, sort of ownership and control, but also just general. I'm sorry for my voice, I've got a bit of a cold, but hey. Okay, so I'll start with Neo-Marxist. So ownership and control wise, Neo-Marxists believe that the media is controlled by journalists. And the reason they say this is because of the idea that journalists kind of are very similar to owners anyways, in the sense that they kind of have this dominant idea that they portray within the media, but it's not so forward, so it's not just the owners, but it's more of the journalists' idea. Neo-Marxists' approach is usually sometimes hear it called as the hegemonic approach, and this came about from a sociology school hall. The hegemonic approach is basically the idea that it's interpreting the same sort of ideas throughout media, but in more of like a soft power sort of way. That's basically what the hegemonic approach is. I might put below a very quick definition if I haven't explained it well enough. Okay, so the neo-Marxists also believe that the media messages transmit the ruling class ideology, and this is not also because as Marxists would say, it's just a dominant ideology and people just take it in. It's more of the idea that actually it's just seen as reasonable. The ruling class ideology is just seen as reasonable, accepted, it makes sense, so why not, sort of thing. Now, a main part of neo-Marxists within media is the GMG group, or the GUMG group. That's the Glasgow Media Group, and they have several reasons for media transmitting this dominant ideology. One of them is the fact that there's language actually favouring the viewpoint of the powerful. Also, you should know that these examples kind of are subtle, which is what neo-Marxists believe. They don't believe like Marxists that it's straightforward, just media is this, media is that, and this dominant ideology. It's kind of more through soft power, more subtly, but it's still there. That dominant ideology is still there. So the GUMG group, one of the points that they make is the language that's favouring the viewpoint of the powerful. So an example of that was the strikes between, I think it was the people that were were working with the bins or whatever, I'm not too sure, but anyways, I just remember it as this industrial dispute. And actually you found that the language that they used for the strikers were more negative words, so words such as like threat and demand, and just kind of like, ooh, do you know what I mean? Whereas for the management team, the people opposing the strikers, they had more positive words like offer. It's just kind of more, it seems just more positive in general. The second thing that the GMG group noticed was identification, and the fact that within the media they tried to allow the audience to identify more with the powerful. So for example, if they were doing a video on police going against strikes or shows or whatever with police involved, they would kind of have an camera angle that's behind the police viewpoint, and that's mainly so that the audiences can identify more with the police and identify more with the powerful beings. And that kind of just, it kind of makes the audience believe, well actually, you know what, this makes sense, this seems right, do you know what I mean? So that's really neo-Marxist. Very quickly, the criticisms for that is the fact that not all journalists share a dominant ideology. So the fact that they say it's controlled by journalists, then if they don't all share this dominant ideology, then there isn't this sense of there being a dominant ideology within the media if they don't share that dominant ideology. The second point, sorry about me like sniffling, is the fact that actually owners do have a direct effect. One, because journalists are taught news values and media content, and that's mainly what the owners want for their journalists to put in, sorry. And two, the idea that journalists don't want to offend their owners. They don't want to upset their owners. So to stay on their good side, they're gonna portray what the owners want, aren't they? And the final point is by Galtung and Rouge, and they say the fact that media audiences aren't passive and they don't actually believe everything they hear anyways. Sorry, my nose is runny. So that's Neo-Marxist. The next perspective is pluralists, and pluralists believe that there is no dominant ideology, and they believe in the fact that different organizations compete on different interests, and the fact that companies actually portray what is the ideas of society at that moment in time to kind of appeal to a diverse range of people. I was always under the assumption that pluralists believe that companies want to make a profit, so to make a profit they make their companies more diverse, but actually making a profit is just a subsequent effect of companies just portraying that idea within society at the time, and the company that best portrays the ideas of society within that specific time makes the most profit because they have the most diverse audience, and they have the largest audience as well. Now, criticisms of pluralists is the fact that Philo says pluralism, this is interesting, they say that pluralism might just be an ideological justification theory made by media owners. And that's interesting because it's kind of saying the idea that media owners may have just made this perspective called pluralism just to kind of have another viewpoint of media, and to kind of justify the reasons for why media companies do what they do in a way, and also the fact that pluralists in general, they don't back up what they say very often. So the idea that media is diverse, yes, fair enough, but there's no evidence for that. And the final criticism is the fact that media groups may not be diverse, and it's not necessarily their fault. It may be because of the evidence that they receive. And an example of that is the Iraq War in 2003, and the idea that 500 journalists all had the same source of information coming from the war. So all 500 journalists ended up writing about the same thing, and it was really difficult for them to report impartially because they all had the same source. So it's kind of like there was no diversity in what they were portraying in the media because they all had the same source. So that's pluralists. And finally is Marxists, and Marxists believe in there being a dominant ideology that spread through the owners' ideologies, and it's the idea that journalists write what the owners want, what the owners say, the owners' ideas, owners' perspectives, owners' viewpoints. It's all the owners, and these owners all are spreading and these media groups are all spreading a dominant ideology. And if you even look at who the owners are, they're normally of the same class, same background, same race, same gender, same age, so they all have this same dominant ideology they want to portray, which is a middle class dominant ideology. Also, journalists write what the owners want, also because of the fact that they want to keep their job, and because obviously the owners are telling them what to do. A very main or the easiest example that I can remember is Rupert Murdoch, who owns News Corp, and the idea that he definitely portrays his views within the companies that he owns. So, for example, the Iraq War, he wanted there to be war in Iraq, and obviously a large proportion of his newspapers and media representatives all portrayed that view, and he said, well, yes, if I have the power to portray this view, then I am going to portray that view, aren't I? Criticisms of Marxism is the fact that they underestimate state regulation, so things such as Ofcom and the BBC, because actually within the BBC, media companies, news companies are not allowed to be biased in what they report, so it has to be very biased. And I think Marxism underestimates this regulation. Two, the fact that actually the concentration of owners is increasing, but at a very small rate. So it's kind of like, although there is more of a concentration and there's less people owning more companies, it's happening at a very slow rate. So there is still a diversity in what's being portrayed in the media. Also, pluralists argue that well, owners need the media need the audience in order to survive and in order to make a profit, because if the audience don't watch what they say, what the media owners are portraying in the media, then they're not going to get an audience, and they're not going to get a profit. And that's for any business, isn't it? They need consumers for them to survive. An example of that is Common X Factor, and the idea that they actually gain a lot of their money from when you call in and vote for who you want, and also the fact that if the show doesn't actually go by what the audience wants, so the people that the audience want to leave or the people that the audience want to stay, they actually lose their audience rapidly. And that's been very obvious in X Factor in recent years, as their audiences have gone down in large numbers. And then the last point is that anti-establishment programs do still exist. Now, anti-establishment programs are programs that kind of criticize traditional values or go against traditional values, and you have things like The Simpsons. Sometimes Simpsons can be very controversial in what they say, and The Simpsons is a very popular program, so that's an example of that. And also the fact that postmodernists believe that people now can campaign using Facebook groups and using various other internet media websites and new media formats to actually campaign against opinions in the media that they don't agree with. So that's that. That's all I've kind of got on the perspectives. If I've yet again forgotten something or missaid something, or I don't know, said something wrong or pronounced something wrong, please do let me know, as it will be really appreciated. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.